And our Student of the Week award goes to Michaela. Again, I don't understand why you can't all learn from her.
Good job, Michaela. Thanks. Apart from being the most perfect student in my class, I think I was also the best at our school. I had straight A's, perfect behavior, attendance, and everything.
You're gonna get a scholarship to Harvard someday, dear.
My dad always said, and I believed him. I was going to do great things and change the world. Keep watching to find out how I probably ended up doing the exact opposite. Although I was already in my final year of high school, I never had a boyfriend or even been on a date. I was just too preoccupied with school and being the absolute best at everything. But one day, I decided to take a break from studying to watch a rom-com, and I started feeling all warm and tingly inside. Maybe one day I'd go out to a movie with a boy, and he'd put his arm around my shoulder. Oh my gosh! What made it strange was that a few days after these odd feelings, Dominic started looking at me with a twinkle in his eyes. Was I reading into it too much? I hope, because Dominic was super awful, and if I had to pick a guy in my class, it would be Stuart. He was almost as smart as I was, and very kind and gentle. But back to Dominic and how terrible he was. You know how I had a track record for being the best student at my school? Dominic had a record too, for being the worst. He was bad. And I'm not talking about skipping a few classes bad. Here's a list of horrible things he did since middle school. In the 7th grade, he got upset with our math teacher for giving too much homework. After class was dismissed, he got a baseball bat and smashed all the windows. He was suspended for 2 weeks, and his parents were super mad that they'd have to cover the costs. But do you think he learned his lesson? No, because in 8th grade, he got mad because he wasn't chosen to play a leading character in our Christmas play. So do you know what he did? He slashed the drama teacher's tires. He didn't even make an effort to hide. He did it in front of everyone so they'd know it was him. I'm not sure why he wasn't expelled then. Our principal is a softie, I guess. You'd think that after he was given all those chances, he'd make an effort to be a little nicer. But no, Dominic became more horrible. He was so rude to teachers, and sometimes he even swore at them. And he continued to break every single rule. It's almost like that was all he came to school to do. By our final year of high school, I heard he was a part of a gang and was getting into all kinds of trouble outside of school. He'd only come to school when he felt like it. I think that by this point, the teachers and the principal were too afraid to punish him for anything he did because his gang was pretty dangerous. No one could cross him, and I guess this made him feel like the most powerful person on the planet. So can you imagine my horror when he showed up in front of my desk with a dozen roses a few days after I saw that sparkle in his eyes?
A dozen red roses for the most beautiful rose in this garden.
Thank you, Dominic. The rest of my classmates stared at us smiling, and I saw Stuart roll his eyes. It didn't stop there. Every day after that, his gifts got bigger and bigger. If I got 12 flowers today, I'd get 24 tomorrow. My room was like a garden. He started hiring a limo to pick me up after school, and he didn't even ask to come along for the ride. At lunchtime, he'd send me 3-course meals from a 5-star restaurant. It was weird eating that in front of everyone in the school cafeteria, but the food was awesome. After about 2 weeks of this royal treatment, it seems like he finally developed the guts to ask me out.
Hey, Michaela, I hope you like your presents. It's the least I can do for someone so perfect.
Yes, I like them very much. Thank you.
I was wondering, would you like to maybe go out with me this weekend?
Well, I have to study all day Saturday, but maybe I can meet you after 6.
Great, I'll have a limo pick you up. We're gonna have a great time.
So my first date ever was with the school bad boy. He wasn't bad at all when we were together, though. He rented out a whole movie theater just for us to watch a movie, and he ordered tons of snacks. Then he did that thing I'd been imagining for a long time. He put his arm around me. I totally melted. After the movie, we went for a stroll, then he took me home. It was a simple date, but I got to learn more about him. It turned out that he was actually a really kind person, a softie even. I found out that he had 2 little sisters that he loved dearly. I also found out that he loved painting. He showed me a few pictures of his art, and I thought it was so cute that he had a sensitive side. We went on several dates after that until we, yep, you guessed it, became an item. I had my first boyfriend, and I didn't just get into a relationship just to see what that would be like. The thing is, I really had started developing feelings for Dominic. I was in love. I didn't know how to stop feeling that way. Although we were in a relationship now, he He continued to spoil me at school. He brought me flowers and gifts every single day, and I could see the other girls burning with envy. Stuart seemed to be a bit concerned, though.
Aren't you worried about where he gets all that money?
All that money?
Come on, genius. Those gifts are super expensive. Dominic lives in my neighborhood and his parents have average jobs. They aren't rich, yet there are working people who can't afford all those gifts.
Oh, lighten up, Stuart.
You know that he's in a gang and he's up to some shady stuff. I just want you to be safe, that's all. Please be careful.
I don't need your help. You know what? Leave me alone. You're probably just jealous because you can't afford to spoil a girl. And even if you could, you wouldn't know how to because you're just so clueless. He walked away sadly, and I went to find my boyfriend. Dominic and I hung out every day after school. Sometimes I'd go to his house, and other times he'd come to mine. I made sure my parents weren't there when he came, though, because they probably wouldn't approve of him. We'd chill and watch movies in my room, but eventually we started making out a lot, and that led to more. You can probably guess what. I knew I probably shouldn't be doing that because I had to focus on my studies, but I didn't care. Like I told you, your girl was in love. It was about 3 months later when I began to notice some changes in my body. I started throwing up every morning before breakfast, and parts of my body hurt. I also became super irritable. Like, sometimes I was so angry, I could choke a koala bear. After about 4 days of this, I began to panic. I stopped at a pharmacy on the way home from school and bought a pregnancy test. I went home, did the test, and nearly fainted. I was pregnant. What was I going to do? Dominic was such a sweet boyfriend, I was sure he'd understand, and that we'd be able to work through this together. I decided I'd tell him the next day while we were walking to my house together. Hey, Dominic, I don't exactly know how to tell you this, so I'll just show you.
What is it?
I handed him the positive pregnancy test.
What is this? Some kind of prank?
No, Dominic. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby.
It can't be mine.
What? You're the only boyfriend I've ever had. The only one I've ever been with. How could you say this?
Girl, stop lying. I don't want anything to do with you or that kid.
He handed me the test back, turned around and walked the other way. He left me standing there all alone and I totally broke down. I felt so lost and alone. How would I achieve any of my dreams as a pregnant teenager? I went home and cried until my parents got home. They found me on the sofa with red eyes.
Dear, what's wrong?
Mom, I'm so sorry.
What are you sorry about, darling?
I'm pregnant.
What? How?
I have a boyfriend. Well, had. His name is Dominic.
Well, you might as well pack up your things and go stay with him. We didn't raise you like this. You're a disgrace, an embarrassment. Get out of our house.
My mom nodded in agreement. First my boyfriend turned against me, now my parents. I went to my room, packed a bag, and went to sit on the front steps.
I said to go find that boy. He did this to you, and now he's going to have to deal with all the trouble.
Dad, he broke up with me. He doesn't want anything to do with me or the baby.
Well, you should have thought about that before doing whatever you did to get there.
I didn't know what to do, so I just walked around the block for a while. Then I decided to walk over to Dominic's house to talk to his parents to see if they'd take me in. Of course, I was crying the whole time. On the way, I saw Stuart. He was riding his bike. He stopped next to me.
Hey, Michaela, what's wrong?
You won't understand.
Come on, talk to me.
I told him everything. He got off his bike and gave me a hug.
Don't go to Dominic's house. His parents are jerks too. Come home with me. We have extra room and my parents would love to have you.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Come with me.
It felt super awkward asking Stuart's parents if they'd take me in. A pregnant teenage girl with no parents and no boyfriend. But amazing people do exist in the world, and they were the best. Stuart's mom explained to me that a similar thing had happened to her when she was younger, and that I shouldn't be so hard on myself. Sometimes these things happen, and we just have to try our best to continue living happily. Having a baby didn't mean that the world ended. I felt really comfortable there. They gave me a beautiful bedroom, and Stuart's mom always cooked nutritious meals for me and the baby. Eventually, I stopped going to school because I started to show, and I didn't really want the attention. Dominic had completely ghosted me, but I didn't care anymore because Stuart had sort of taken his place. When I was about 7 months along, he told me he wouldn't mind being the father figure in the child's life. Then, on a beautiful sunny day in May, I had an adorable baby girl. She was so precious and perfect. I decided to name her Jewel. A few months after, I had my final high school exams, and can you imagine that I was able to do it all? I achieved near perfect scores, and Stuart's parents were so impressed that they insisted that I go to college. I was thinking about getting a job at a supermarket and renting a small apartment to take care of Jewel and me, but they said that Stuart and I were going to go to college and that they'd cover all the expenses. In addition to that, they offered to take care of Jewel while I was gone. Did I hit the jackpot or what? Stuart and I were off to college a few months later, and while it tore me apart to be away from my baby, I knew that this was the best decision for us. I knew that Stuart had feelings for me though, and he always expressed them in little ways, but I just wasn't attracted to him at all anymore. I know it seems ridiculous, but I always ended up dating guys who were similar to Dominic. They were bad boys, but they made my heart melt. Right now, I'm dating a guy called Carlos. I met him at a club one Friday night, and I instantly fell in love. He's the leader of a gang, and he's involved in lots of dangerous, unspeakable things. But he treats me like a queen, and that's all that matters. When I finish my degree, I'm going to move in with him, and I will send for Jewel too. He will be her new daddy, and I'm pretty certain that we'll live a perfect life together. I'm happy that things are finally working out for me, and I look forward to the future.